I have a confession to make. When I purchased my Torin 7s, I was fully prepared, even excited, to break the next iteration in the Torin lineup and condemn Ultra for further narrowing their foot shape and making questionable design decisions. While I gave last year's model, the Torin 6, a positive review, I realized that I only ever bought a single pair of the shoes for that review, and once I wore them out, I went back to buying the cheaper, more familiar, and much less expensive Torin 5s. The Torin 6 isn't a bad shoe, it's actually a really good shoe. It just didn't excite me or give me any reason to go purchase it over the previous year's model, the Torin 5, especially when I could get the Torin 5 for about half the price. So when I received my Torin 7s, purchased at full price with my own money, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it improves upon the Torin 6 in every way and is the first shoe from Ultra in a while that I'm excited to lace up and go hit the road. Before I get into this review, I just want to make sure that you know that I didn't receive anything from Ultra for this review. No shoes, no discounts, no promises of anything. However, it would be nice if they sent me a discounted pair or maybe a free pair to review, because this shit's getting expensive. So with that, let's get right into the review. No intro, no filler, no shameless plugs for my favorite charity, Bigger Than the Trail, an organization focused on bringing awareness to mental health. I'll save that for the end of the video. Let's start with a quick overview of the Torin lineup and find out what runner the shoe is for. The Torin is Ultra's everyday trainer, akin to the Hoka Clifton or New Balance 1080. It features high cushion, moderate responsiveness, neutral support, and a very, very light breathable upper. It's built as a mixture of comfort and speed, leaning more toward the comfort side, and for racing, this would be my choice for a marathon or longer distances, with the Torin being my main choice for an ultramarathon on road, or maybe some light trails. It comes in the standard foot shape and is available in both regular and wide. If you want an extremely detailed breakdown of the Ultra foot shapes, I'll have that link down in the video description, but just know that the standard foot shape is the most common offering from Ultra, with the slim and the traditional having the least options in those categories. If you're looking for a max cushioned road shoe, I'd go with the Via Olympus, but if you're looking for something with a little bit of less cushion, a lot more responsiveness, I'd go with the Escalante or Rivera personally. So why choose the Torins if it's right in the middle? Well, for the versatility that everyday trainers provide. It's extremely comfortable for my long runs, but the responsiveness is great for a really decent speed workout. Sometimes I'm unsure of what kind of workout I'll be doing till I'm about a mile or two out the door, so it's nice to have the Torins in case I want to do an impromptu speed workout and kind of pick my adventure on the fly. So, now that you know what the Torins are used for, let's take a look at some of the defining features of the Torin 7. The first change I noticed when I opened the box is this new tongue design. This was a much needed change. They switched from the former abrasive design into this very soft, lightweight version. I personally never had issues with the Torin 5 or 6 tongue design until one run when I was out, and for some reason my socks slipped down a little bit, and that tongue ate my ankle apart, caused me to bleed a little bit, and I was a believer after that. So seeing that Ultra listened to the consumers, read the reviews, and actually made this change gave me a lot of hope that they addressed some of the other issues that I had with the Torin 6. It's everything I could want in a shoe's tongue design. It's not abrasive, it's comfortable, and I barely even know it's there. The heel collar and back wing thing is also slightly redesigned. I'll admit I thought this was pretty ridiculous when I first saw it on the Torin 6, especially when you compare it side by side to the Torin 5. I thought it looked goofy, wasn't a huge fan, but this design is really growing on me. It provides a snug and secure fit, but not enough to cause any chafing, and I honestly think it is a bit more comfortable than the Torin 5 and previous iterations that had the old heel collar, and like I said, it's actually really growing on me. The bottom line is, if you had heel lock issues in any of the older Torin models, then you won't have any issues here, and if you never had any of those issues, then you still won't. The stack height has been increased by 2 millimeters to 30 millimeters in total, and I'm a little mixed on this. I prefer a shoe with smaller stack heights to give a bit more road feel, and with the release of the Via Olympus, Ultra's Ultra Plush road shoe, I figured they wouldn't make the Torin 7 any more plush than it already was. Running with the extra 2 millimeters isn't extremely noticeable in terms of foot stability, but it does definitely lessen that ground feel. The good news is, however, that the responsiveness of the Torin 7 does feel a little better than previous year's models, and it actually feels like a faster shoe. Overall, I'd say that increased running performance is a good trade-off for a lack of ground feel, especially because it's not a significant lack of ground feel. It is noticeable, but the increased speed, to me personally, is definitely noticeable. The upper knit has also been redesigned, and it feels very snug, yet also extremely breathable. It does provide a bit of stretch, but not enough stretch to where your foot's moving around too much, and it doesn't sacrifice that security of attaching the shoe to your foot. Overall, I really like the tweaked upper, and I'll go into it way more in detail on the next section when I talk about fit, because Altra addressed one major issue I had with the Torin 6s, and they fixed it in the 7s with this upper. So with the defining features explained, I would now like to talk about the important stuff, which is the fit and the feel of the Torin 7. So if you've previously worn the Torins, you can tell right away the fit of the Torin 7 is much better than the Torin 6, and it's quite different than the Torin 5, but in a good way. I purchased both the regular and the wide versions to try out, and honestly, I'll be returning the wides because the Torin 7 improved upon a lot of the issues I had with the Torin 6's fit, and the regular feels perfect to me. The biggest improvement to me for the Torin 7 over the Torin 6 is that midfoot. The Torin 6s always felt tight in this area, not quite uncomfortable, but it just felt like every time I ran, I just felt this pulling on the inside of my foot. And I think this was due to this hard plastic rubbery material and some of the stitching. It never caused any blisters or chafing, but I just always kind of knew it was there. Now the Torin 7 fixes this problem by possibly allowing a little more room on the inside of the foot, but I think the main difference is that this fabric goes all the way back and the hard plasticky rubbery stuff doesn't start till further back, so this whole panel along the instep of your foot is actually fabric. This provides more stretch, this reduces that constriction that I felt, and honestly, it feels so much better than the Torin 6 that this is probably my second biggest reason to pick up the Torin 7 over the Torin 6, the first main reason being that redesigned tongue, that way less abrasive tongue. The signature toe box also feels very comfortable in these shoes. I do wish, however, that there was a little bit more room around the lateral side of my foot by those pinky toes. The wide, it's too wide. My feet are really swimming around in there. It doesn't feel secure, but there's still a little bit of pressure with this standard foot shape right along the outside of my foot. I have a tailor's bunion, so I do prefer a little bit extra room. However, this is very similar to previous year's Torins. It's very similar to the standard foot shape that Ultra offers in general, so really can't complain too much there. You know what you're getting. The upper mesh is thin yet breathable and allows a little bit of room for your toes to move around, to splay out a little bit, but doesn't sacrifice security and still keeps that shoe attached to your foot quite well. It does seem to be thinner, and I am concerned about the longevity of the upper. I've only put about 100 miles on these shoes, so they still have many hundreds more to go. I'll keep an eye on that. If it starts to break down any faster than expected, I'll definitely leave an update down in the comments. It's definitely stronger than the Ultramarathon Blanc upper. That upper is like paper thin. That one, it was pilling and scratching on my first run. So this definitely seems to be much more well made than that. However, like I mentioned, I'll keep you guys updated, and in the next few months, if I notice any wear or tear that's outside of the realm of normal, then I'll make sure to keep you guys informed. The heel cup of the Torin 7 feels snug and secure. It's pretty much the same design as the Torin 6s. A major concern of the 6s for me was that this tighter heel would wear down quicker because it is snugger and it does hug your foot a little tighter. However, compared to the Torin 4.5s, the Torin 5s, the level of breakdown of that inner heel collar was about exactly the same, so shouldn't expect to see any issues with this Torin 7 for any outside of the norm wear and tear. I have to say, I am really enjoying the fit and the feel of this new heel. In my previous review on the Torin 6s, I think I mentioned how I didn't have a problem with the 5s, so I don't know why they changed it. I'm gonna go back and say that I'm actually, quite liking it. It's growing on me, and I think it's a very good direction that Ultra has taken their shoe in. It's a very distinct look, and yeah, I'm liking it. Now, in terms of the fit of the wide versus the regular, I'll show you right now. These wides, they have a lot more room in that midfoot, but that toe box, holy cow, just look at that. That is a lot of room. And as I mentioned, the Torin is my do-it-all shoe, so I actually prefer a bit of the snugness found in the regular Torin 7. Again, I'm going to mention the snugness, it's not uncomfortable because that upper mesh does provide a little bit of flex. I do wish that the overall fit was a bit bigger on the regulars. However, the wides, that is wide. I mean, I have room for another 2 toes in that shoe. Now, this isn't to say that the wide feels like a clown shoe when it's on. It actually still feels very, very decent. This is a shoe that I would choose as a dedicated long run shoe, and it's also a shoe that I would have in my quiver for an ultramarathon if I knew I was gonna be able to switch out shoes, because as your feet swell during an ultramarathon, it's always good to have a little bit extra room. And also during an ultramarathon, I may wanna wear a thicker pair of socks. So this allows enough room for thicker socks, for swelling feet, or for both of the above. But as I mentioned, I bought these with my own money. I can only keep one right now, so send in the wide back and keep in the regular. Now on to some negatives. First and foremost, it's that Ego Max midsole. I've never found the Ego Max midsole to be overly robust. After about 300 or so miles, you can really tell that the Torin loses its responsiveness, and it just, you can still run on it. I still run on them until they're like 600-700 miles till I completely blow them out, but you can definitely tell that it feels much more flat. You don't have as much propulsion on the road, so that's definitely something that about that 300 mile mark you're gonna notice. Now again, to reiterate, I've only put about 100 miles onto these shoes. The extra 2mm stack height may in fact prolong the responsiveness. So again, in the comments, check back in a few months. I'll let you know if it lasted a little longer than I expected compared to the 5s and the 6s, or if it fell right around that 300-ish mile mark. Now, speaking of that extra 2mm, that is my next negative. That may be a turnoff to some buyers. I definitely noticed less of a ground feel, but there is a noticeable increase in responsiveness and speed. So for me personally, it's a decent trade-off, but for someone that wants that ground feel, the Torin 7, it's not gonna do it for you. I don't think this is an overly negative change because Ultra still has some decent offerings with lower stack heights, with more ground feel. I just think that Ultra is trying to break into the mainstream and have their Torin be their flagship model. It's one of their most popular shoes. However, I do fear that they're gonna start becoming too mainstream. Just look at the Via Olympus. The thing looks like a freaking Hoka, and you do not want to look like a Hoka. I'm just joking. Don't come after me if you wear some Hokas. However, you do have to admit those shoes have some enormous stack heights. My next negative would have to be the color patterns for the Ultra shoes. They've never really excited me or jumped out at me. However, I don't care about the color of my shoes. I rarely have an outfit that is color coordinated. I actually try very hard not to do that. Now, this isn't to say that they're ugly by any means. They just don't like jump at me like a Saucony or Brooks does. I kind of like those color patterns, and I do kind of like this color, but it reminds me a bit of orange and blue, which that's the Gators colors. The UF sucks. UCF, I mean, we were the national champs a few years ago, so I mean, UCF's way better. So if they had some black and gold shoes, I would definitely be wearing that. But you know, orange and blue, nah. If I didn't piss off the Hoka fans, I definitely pissed off the UF fans. So rest in peace, my comments. Ultra made some substantial changes when going from the Torin 5 to the Torin 6. Some hits, some misses. For the Torin 7s, they listened to us, the consumer. They made the necessary changes and brought us, in what my opinion is a worthwhile successor in the Torin lineup, and just an overall a fun shoe. It's a shoe that I get excited when I get to put it on and go out and go for a training run. I know many of you skip over these videos and go right to the summary to save yourself some time because you're a lot like me. So for the positives, we have 1, improved, less abrasive tongue design. 2, less constrictive midfoot fit. 3, a more responsive midsole at the sacrifice of that ground feel. 4 would be a lightweight and stretchy upper mesh. And 5 would be a good balance of speed and comfort. And for the negatives, we have 1 being that Ego Max midsole feels quite flat before the end of life. 2, that extra stack height does sacrifice that ground feel for responsiveness, so this could go either way depending on what you're looking for. And 3, the colors really lack a wow factor. As I mentioned, they're not, super exciting, but again, it's the colors of a shoe. It doesn't increase performance. Maybe there's a psychological aspect, but for the most part, it shouldn't increase performance. As I said at the start of this review, I was fully prepared to tear Altra apart, to berate them. I was gonna spend $160 just to make a slam video, and I got humbled, I got pleasantly surprised. I was honestly ready to go out and start buying some Topos and doing some reviews of those shoes, trying to transition over, which I still may do. I've had some people request some reviews on some of their shoes. They do look really cool. But Altra really won me back with the Torin 7s. They won me back by listening to us, the consumer, the people that buy the shoes. They listened to our feedback, they incorporated some major changes, and it seems like they're making some steps to go in the right direction. I do have some worries that they are trying to go a little too mainstream. They are narrowing that foot shape more and more, making the stack heights bigger, but the Torin 7, to me, it's a great shoe, it's a fun shoe, I love putting it on, I love going out running with it. It's fast, it's comfortable, it's everything I could want in a daily trainer, and I would highly recommend it for everyday training, plus doing some of those ultramarathons. And finally, I said I was gonna do it. I'm gonna do a quick endorsement for the brand that I'm an ambassador for, the organization Bigger Than the Trail. They're an organization that raises money, that raises awareness for mental health issues. If you've watched my videos, if you've seen some of my previous posts on my races, mental health awareness is a topic that's vitally important to me. I went through some issues, used trail running, used my family, used my friends, and I'm in a lot better place now. But there are a lot of people that are afraid to talk about their mental health issues. I just believe spreading awareness and letting other people know that we all struggle. We all have things we're going through. Some can be very minor, some can be very major. Even if it's something minor, don't be afraid to talk about it. My personal struggles, I thought, were so minor that it almost would seem like I'm complaining, or that my problems were so less than someone else's that I had no right to talk about it. That's not true. Even minor problems can lead to major mental health issues. So I like Bigger Than the Trail because they bring awareness to mental health, and they do so by getting people counseling through betterhelp.com. They set people up with a counselor, with some free counseling, just to get them that first step that they need to take to talk to somebody. So what I ask from you, not to donate. If you want to donate, that's great, but just raise mental health awareness. If it's through Bigger Than the Trail, that's great. But if it's just by talking to your friends, asking how they're doing, that means more than donating any amount of money to any organization. Is being a member of your community, being a good friend, and just checking on people. So I ask you to go to bttt.run, check them out. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, all social media. Give them a follow, give them some shares. But if you don't want to do that, just be a good person, be a good friend, and just be a good member of your community. That's all you gotta do. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around. And I say this at the end of all my videos, but I just want you to know that I truly mean it. I really can't wait to see you do something amazing.